In this case study, we're going to be walking through an example of a couple that is 68 and 62 with $2.5 million saved for retirement, and we're going to be seeing if they need to be doing Roth conversions or not. But first, if I haven't met you yet, my name is Jacob Duke. I'm a certified financial planner, and the purpose of this channel is to help you succeed in retirement. All right, let's go ahead and jump in, look at some of the details of this scenario, and then we'll begin to see, hey, should they be doing conversions or not? So here we can see that James is currently age 68 and he's about to retire. Tammy is 62 and she's also about to retire. And for now, I've got James passing away at age 80. So he's got 12 years to live. And then Tammy, I've got her living to age 90. So she's gonna live 10 years longer than he lives in age, but she's also 6 years younger. So it's a combination to equal 16 years that she could be filing as a single filer on her tax returns, which is gonna be important to the conversation of whether or not they should be doing these Roth conversions. So let's take a look at their overall asset makeup and kind of where their retirement savings is held. Right now, James has $1.3 million in his tax-deferred traditional IRA, which that's the bulk of their savings. And then Tammy also has $900,000 in her traditional IRA. They've also got a joint checking account at the bank with $150,000 in it. And their joint investment account has $225,000 as well. They also own a home that's worth $600,000, bringing their ultimate net worth to 3.1 or $3.2 million. That home is paid for, so it could be used later in life for long-term care expenses or anything that might come up where they need to take equity out. But for now, we're not going to include that in their plan in terms of what they're hoping to do. So that's where their assets are. And the first thing you can notice is that all of their retirement savings is tax deferred for the most part, with a little bit of after-tax investments and bank account money. So that's the reason we have to even think about Roth conversions in the first place, is having all of their assets in those tax deferred accounts. So let's take a look at their goals for retirement in terms of what they need to do. So obviously they're wanting to retire right now this year. So James at 68, Tammy at 62. I need around $8,000 a month to continue the lifestyle that we currently live in terms of spending and just eating out and doing the things we want to do, golf course memberships, things like that. So $8,000 a month is how much they're expecting to spend. And then also we've got their healthcare costs in here as well, because James is obviously above 65, so he qualifies for Medicare and will begin his part A, B, D, and then Medigap. And then I've got that factor in right here for him in terms of those out-of-pocket costs for the premiums. And then Tammy, she is under 65 at age 62. Therefore, she's gonna have to go get insurance on her own. So right now I'm saying that's gonna be around $9,600 per year in terms of the premiums. And that's where we're at for her healthcare costs right now. Also, they enjoy traveling, visiting family in other cities, and doing different things. So they wanted to say, hey, what if we had a $20,000 travel budget? How would that affect our plan? Will we still be able to retire and things like that? So that's where we're at in terms of what they're hoping to do and how much money they're gonna be spending in retirement. Now, let's take a look at their income and their Social Security. So for James's salary, he's been making $150,000 per year. That's obviously gonna be going away as soon as he retires here soon. And then Tammy has been making $90,000. So beginning in 2024, that'll be the first full year that they do not have any salary. That's whenever those are gonna fall off. And they're only gonna be left with Social Security if they're gonna take it, and any distributions from their accounts. Now for James's Social Security, he will have $3,000 at his full retirement age, but for now, we're gonna say since he's age 68, he has not yet started that, we're gonna say we're gonna delay his Social Security until age 70, which is only 2 more years. So the benefit will be greater than $3,000 a month, but this is factoring in based on his full retirement age. So he's not yet receiving that. Tammy's Social Security at full retirement age, which will be 67 for her, is gonna be $2,300 per month. So right away, we can see once they start taking their Social Security together, they're gonna be making north of $5,000, maybe even close to $6,000 per month just on Social Security alone. So when we think about, hey, $8,000 a month of actual spending needs, it actually cuts into that a large amount, which means they're not gonna have to distribute a whole lot of money out of their accounts once they turn Social Security on. So that's where we stand in terms of their overall makeup and kind of scenario of where they're at right now. The primary question that they had for me was, hey Jacob, should we be doing Roth conversions early on in retirement? And with those large tax deferred balances, my first thought is, well, yes, but I wanted to kind of walk through this with you. That way we can see how and when they need to be doing those. So the first thing we want to look at is, are they able to retire with an $8,000 or around $10,000 of overall cost per month with, $2.5 million of liquid net worth in their retirement savings? And the answer is yes. They're going to be able to retire. And here's kind of all the different levers that we could pull and make changes to. Right now, I'm not going to walk through making any changes at this point. We're going to really focus on the tax side of things. So we can see that they are good to go. Now, let's look at the taxes a little bit and see what some of their issues could be. So right now, the software is saying we're going to take money out of their bank accounts and we're going to take money out of their taxable investment account first, and then we're going to take money from their tax-deferred IRAs. So that's why you see at the very beginning here, there's 1, 2, and 3 years of no income that's taxable to them, right? They're still delaying their Social Security until 71, whenever James turns 71, and they're going to be taking money for their living expenses from their non-taxable income. So their bank account and then also their joint taxable investment account, which means no taxes, which is going to present an opportunity for them to do Roth conversions, because one of the biggest issues that face a lot of people who are married with large tax-deferred account balances like IRAs and 401ks is going to be right here. This is the widow's tax trap. So remember, we've got James passing away at age 80, and then as soon as that happens, he's taking RMDs and so is Tammy. But as soon as that happens, the RMDs will remain the same, but now Tammy's gonna have to file as a single filer, which means that her tax rate is gonna jump from 13% at the federal level all the way up to 20% at the federal level. And remember, they're in Texas, so no state income taxes, but a 7% increase on their taxes for the RMDs that she's gonna be taking. That's what we wanna see. Hey, can we solve for this and help eliminate that if at all possible? So let's go ahead and take a look and see how these different conversions might be possible for them. Right here, we can see that they have an opportunity to do the conversions up front in the early years of retirement, because later on in retirement, she's gonna be paying north of 22, 24% on those RMDs in the future. So right now, the system is saying that we're taking distributions, as I mentioned already, we're taking them as taxable first, tax deferred being the IRAs second, and then their Roth accounts would be last. So that's what we're looking at. Now, this is a better approach most of the time than pro rata, which is gonna be here, because if we say, hey, if we're gonna take equal distributions in terms of a percentage, if we take an equal percentage from our traditional IRAs for our income, and then an equal percentage from our after-tax money like bank accounts or taxable investment accounts, if we take an equal percentage from both, that is gonna end up with less money, that much less, than if we take it from taxable first and then tax deferred and then tax free. So the order in which you distribute from your accounts in retirement to draw your income actually matters a lot. But to show you how the Roth conversions might benefit them, I want to keep it equal so we're comparing apples to apples and give you an actual dollar amount that might be beneficial. So our conversion target, we're trying to say, what if we converted up to the 10% bracket in these first 3 years? What does that change? So I'm going to change that really quickly. And so right here, you can see there's a small little green sliver. That's saying, because we did the conversions, at this point, we're paying taxes on that money. We're gonna end up at the end of Tammy's life with this much more money overall in after-tax money and tax savings. So that's one improvement immediately. If we just do pay a 10% tax rate at the federal level on a little bit of money, it's not a whole lot, but it makes a big difference long-term when you factor in the long-term tax-free growth that'll be happening in that Roth account. Now, what you can see is now we have this is the model for if we do the conversions, we'll have a little bit of tax early on, but it does not make a huge difference for them, it seems like, because she's still gonna have, if you can see, she's still gonna have a lot of taxes to pay there at the end of her life. So let's keep going and see, hey, the 10%, it helped, but not a whole lot. What if we did to the 12% bracket? What if we filled up the 12% bracket, which in 2023 is north of $80,000 of taxable income? So that actually improves it again. So it went from $178,000 all the way to $280,000 more throughout the life of their plan. So we can see that if we fill up those first 2, 3, or perhaps even add someone that 4th year, now we have more money in the Roth, meaning less taxes for her in the future, because you can see on this green kind of chart, you can see that it's lower than the blue, right? So ultimately, she's gonna be paying less tax later in life whenever she's a single filer, and that ultimately leads them to have $280,000 more throughout the life of their plan, and ultimately leave that to their kids or grandkids or charity or whoever it may be that might be important to them. So we're gonna keep going. We're gonna see how far this goes to see when does the benefit stop. So we've done the 10%, the 12%. Now what about the 22%? What if we filled that up? Okay, so it jumped from 280,000 all the way up to 346,000. So if you see here, whenever we jump to the 22% tax bracket, which in 2026 will become the 25% tax bracket, in the first 3 years, we're going to be filling up all of this range in green. And then after that, we're going to have distributions from our IRAs because we have to have money to live on. And then we also will have Social Security income, which means the blue section will obviously remain the same. But since that's our living expenses in the blue section, we can go all the way up above that and do this green portion as Roth conversions to fill up that 22% bracket. So that actually gives us a lot more money over the life of the plan by doing conversions all the way up to that 22% bracket and filling that up all the way. So you can see that there's obviously less conversion amount in these later years, but by doing that, you still end up with more money. So let's keep going and take a look at the 24% bracket. Is there like a break even or, okay, so if we fill up the 24% bracket in the first, what is this? I don't know, 5, 10 years or so of their retirement, they actually end up with less money. So that's where it becomes less beneficial, or it's actually not beneficial for them to do conversions up to that 24% bracket, which in 2026, again, that'll be the 28% bracket. So we can see immediately that there is kind of a threshold to say the 10% bracket helps, but the 22% bracket is going to be the best. And then once we jump to 24 or the 28 in the future, that's whenever it actually goes backwards and the benefit is not really there. So sometimes people have the question of, well, should I just convert all of my money at once right now today and just get it out of the way? And typically that's not going to be the best solution, but it could be depending on your situation. So we're going to leave this at the 22% bracket. That's the one we're going to be filling up. Now, what does this actually look like from a tax payment in terms of how much they're converting and how much tax they're going to owe on that? So this is showing the conversion amounts over the years, and it pretty much stops right here after James passes away at age 80. You see that Tammy is still living. And so there it has factored in a little bit of Roth conversion here, but at this point we may not be doing them because her tax brackets are going to be too high anyway. But the main thing I wanted to show you is that these first 2 years when they're not drawing income from Social Security and they're not taking money out of their IRAs to live on, they're living on their after-tax assets like cash and taxable investment account money, that's whenever they have to take advantage and do larger conversions to fill up that 22% bracket. So they're gonna be doing north of $200,000 these first 2 years. So by converting over $400,000 from their tax deferred to their Roth accounts, now they're gonna have $400,000 in their Roth accounts, and they're gonna have less than that 2.2 million in their tax deferred accounts, which ultimately lowers that tax burden for Tammy in the future due to the widow's tax trap. So the first 2 years, being able to delay the Social Security and then live off of other after-tax assets is crucial in the ability for them to do some Roth conversions. Now, I want to change one thing to see what if they didn't have any after-tax assets, would they be able to still do conversions? So I'm going to change this really quickly and you can follow along and see how this goes. We're going to just put this at 0, save. We're going to say they only have $25,000 just to kind of show you that having after-tax assets gives you the ability to do Roth conversions most effectively. So we're going to go back to tax now. They still have their 2.2 million in their tax deferred accounts. So we can see by not having those after-tax assets, they're going to have to live off of their tax deferred IRAs while they're waiting to take Social Security. And immediately upon taking Social Security, you can see that their tax rate jumps again, right? Because they're pushing themselves into higher tax brackets with those distributions from their IRAs, but now their Social Security taxation is actually gonna be higher because they have to take money out of their tax deferred accounts. So there's no income gap like we saw before because they don't have any after-tax money to live on while we're doing those conversions. So let's see what this actually shows in terms of how much they would or wouldn't be able to convert. So by not having those after-tax dollars, and we're still filling up the 22% bracket, they only end up with $8,000 more throughout the life of the plan, which means they're not really benefiting by doing much of the conversions, right? Because that first 2 years is the most important part in all of this. So they're filling up the 22% bracket, but remember they're having to live off of their tax deferred IRAs still. And let's see what that actually shows in terms of how much they can convert. So remember the first 2 years with the after-tax money in the cash and investment account, they could do north of $200,000 in conversion each year. Without that, they can only do $72,000 and then $48,000 a second year. So they're cutting into how much they can convert by a large amount simply by not being what I call tax diversified. So hopefully this shows you some of the risks that come with a lot of money in a tax deferred account like an IRA or a 401k, especially when you have an age gap within a couple, and then assuming that the male will typically pass away first, and if they're the older person, there is a real issue of the widow's tax trap in terms of paying a lot of taxes later on in life for the surviving spouse. So having a plan for Roth conversions, and then before you actually get to retirement, building out that tax diversification by saying, I want to have as much in cash as I possibly can leading up to retirement, but then also having as much in that after-tax brokerage account will ultimately help you be able to convert more in the early stages while you're delaying Social Security, and then actually not having to take money out of your IRAs for living expenses. So if you found this video helpful, go ahead and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any future case studies like this one, and then also give it a like and share it with a friend. That way they can learn from this too. Thanks so much, and we will see you next time.